Hey everybody, it's your girl Planet Tie on deck. I hope you guys are having a great day, afternoon, and or evening whenever you guys are seeing this. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys are new, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe so that anytime I post another video, you guys can be first on deck to see what's tea. Now, today I will be discussing the story of a woman who's well known by the, I'll say, stage name of Miss Cleo. She was most popular for the catchphrase, quote, "Call me now." If you guys want to hear the information that I put together about Miss Cleo, all you guys got to do, stay tuned. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for being back on deck. Without further ado, let's jump into this true crime. Now, I have my notes on deck here to the left of me because there's so much to cover here that I want to make sure that I accurately portray the information that I have researched, okay? So, let's get started. So, Miss Cleo was actually born Yourdee Dale Harris on August the 12th, 1962. Now, Yourdee was born in Los Angeles, California, to her mother, a woman by the name of Elisa Teresa Hopkins, and her father, the gentleman by the name of David Harris. So not a whole bunch of information about her early childhood development, siblings, neighborhoods she lived in, and all that other stuff. But I do have some information about the type of school she went to and so forth. But for now, let's just jump into an important time in her life. Was at the age of 19, Yourdee actually got married, and she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Now, we all know, okay, 19 is very young to be getting married, okay? Now, in some rare cases, people can get married at 19 and stay married for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, right? And when I say rare, I mean very rare cases. But the average person getting married at 19, it's not likely to last the duration of the remainder of their lifetime here, right? Now, her marriage was short-lived as she later divorced at the age of 21. So, like I was saying, the average person, and this was, pretty much an average situation, nothing extreme in either way. A couple years later, it didn't work. The two decided to split. But they did have a beautiful daughter together, so there was something beautiful, brought out of that. So Yourdee later had a second child while she was in her late 20s, and that child was also a baby girl. Now, I do not have the name of her children, and also, for the to protect children in any way that we can, I don't know that part is necessarily necessary. So if I don't find names, I don't necessarily look for them, especially when they're minors, okay? Now, her marriage, so far we know her marriage was short-lived, and she had a second kid in the later part of her 20s, but it does not say if the second kid that she had was with her previous husband or if it was with a new suitor, okay? It's reported that Yourdee was raised in a Catholic Afro-Caribbean family, and she grew up to attend all-girls secondary school in Abram, California. Now, that's very interesting because, her public persona was, I want to say, anything but Catholic girl. I don't think anyone at that time, knowing her or knowing of her personality as the Miss Cleo, would assume that she had went to an all-girls Catholic school. So I think that part's very interesting to know. And also, I want you guys to light up the comments and tell me, do you guys remember Miss Cleo? Have you guys heard about her story before? I know that when I first became aware of, her name is Yourdee, but it's kind of easier to remember, to refer to her as Miss Cleo in broader context, because that's what her pseudonym was known as Miss Cleo. Anyhow, when she first came to my attention, I remember I was a kid. I had to be maybe 9 years old or something else like that when I first heard about her. And I just remember it being somewhat exciting, like, oh, wow, like I didn't even really fully know what a psychic was. It just seemed like, it's a beautiful, African-American lady, and she's on TV. So cool. What does she do? That was kind of my thought process then. But again, I was just a child then, so I didn't understand that. But now, as a young woman, okay, and I understand, what her role was actually then. It's really interesting to see the way things turned out for her. So let's jump back into this story time. Now, Yourdee was best known as a television personality and an actress who was a spokeswoman for a psychic pay per call network, right? So the psychic network that everybody kind of remembers as, yo, call me now, call me now. You want to know about love. You want to know about family. You want to know about your career. Call me now. I'll help you out. So, she had this beautiful Jamaican accent, and it was just like her persona just lit up the whole screen and had people intrigued like all around the world. Who is this ray of sunshine? What does she know? Can she help me? And how do I get in contact with her, right? I think that was the overall census during that time. Now, in 1996, it's reported that she wrote a play titled For Women Only, where she played a Jamaican woman named Cleo in Seattle, Washington, right? Now, the thing about the character that she played, the Jamaican woman, now there's reports that suggest that Miss Cleo, or Yourdee, was in fact not really Jamaican. So, it was like a role that she had played, that she played it so well that it kind of became her. You guys ever known of, or you guys can think about like people who play different roles and it just fits them, right? Like for me, one of the guys who played in one of Tyler Perry's movie, and I know I'm digressing a little bit, but it's Diary of a Mad Black Woman, right? It's this one guy, I think it was the guy who played the husband. I do not know why, but for me, every time I see him in roles like that, it just fits him. Not to say that that is him personally. I don't know that man at all, So I'm not saying that that's how he personally is, but what I mean is that somebody can use a persona for so long and they imitate it so well that it kind of precedes them. So light up the comments and let me know if you guys know what I mean, right? In 1997, Yourdee produced and performed 2 plays at the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Center while she was in Seattle. So, she has a career acting. She's doing her thing. She's writing plays. She's performing. She's acting. She has people paying attention. She's getting her own notoriety that has absolutely nothing to do but a psychic network, okay? So, her last project was titled Super Club. And it was reported to be not as successful as her other plays and the other things that she had previously produced. It was also rumored that that soon thereafter, her final project, that she actually disappeared and left town. So a lot of people who were around her, who talked to the media at that time, or people who just talked to the media and said what they believe they knew to be true, because that happens too, they were saying that she left town. She said, you know what? I've been doing my thing. Some of it was successful, some of it not doing really what I wanted it to do. Hey, I had a good run, but peace, I'm out of here. So it's reported that she packed up and she just left town and said, yeah, I'm done with this thing, right? It was also alleged that some of the members of her cast, the people who were in the play with her that she was paying to be in the play, some of the members of her cast actually claimed that they were never paid for the work that they had done from her. And when they approached her and was like, hey, so yeah, I kind of need our money, what's up? She told them, it was alleged that she told them, hey, I have bone cancer and I have a lot of medical bills and that's going to prevent me from paying you all. Now, you guys keep in mind, medical bills are some of the most expensive bills that we can have aside of like mortgage and car notes and stuff like that. So medical bills can really suck all the money out of somebody, right? But at the same time, if you're on the side of the spectrum with that and you're the one waiting for your money, do you really care that somebody's, medical bills or how patient are you willing to be based on those medical bills? And I think people were going on both sides of the track with that, her cast anyhow, like some people being more sympathetic, where others were like, you know what? I'm gonna need my money because the rent man, I can't tell him my boss can't pay me because she has these bills. So I think it was kind of going both ways. Now, her cast also noted that she wrote an individual note to each of them, and she outlined exactly how much money that she owed them, right? Because if you ask me, for somebody, to me, that says that she took accountability for what she owed. If in order for her to basically write out an itemized statement, I owe this cast member this cast member that, blah, 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 and she wrote it out, put a time and date stamp on it, and signed it, to me, that says that she had an intent to pay them eventually when she could, or if she could. So to me, that spoke good faith. But you guys light up the comments and let me know what you guys think about this, right? Now, and the cast also said that, she apologized to them. It was just like, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry about this, guys. I didn't expect it to go this way, but that's kind of where life is right now. Now, in January 1993, a guy by the name of Steve Fetter and Peter Stotz started a company called Psychic Advisors Network. They are actually the owners of that company, or they were back then. I don't know if they own it now, but when all this took place, they were the original owners. Okay, in 1997, Yourdee moved to Florida. Florida. I think I'm saying it right, Florida, where she met Steve and Peter, and those two, they happen to be cousins, right? So these are two family member cousins. They come together with this great idea to make money off this psychic network, right? And they're looking around, and I want to even say scouting talent, if you will, okay? And somehow they come across Yourdee, right? So they, in 1997, when she moved to Florida, she met Steve and Peter there, okay? Now, shortly after the three of them met, the guys told her of the business that they had, and she started so basically they told her of the business that they had, and so she came to the network and she started taking calls. She started answering calls for the network, right? Her call taker job ID, she identified at that time as reader ID number 16153. So she was a working light worker, actively working at that time on their network, because they offered her the position when they met in Florida, right? Now, it was reported that Yourdee was using her Jamaican accent when she started working as a tarot reader on the hotline. Now, you guys keep in mind, the people who knew her, okay, they said basically that her Jamaican accent was actually used for a role, the acting role that she had in Seattle. That was not her true voice. It was not how she truly presented, like, from birth or anything. It's just the accent she used for a role. But, the accent became really popular when she did it. Well, I'm going to say this even for myself. I mean, she sold the get out of that. You know what I mean? I really thought she was Jamaican, but then again, I really did, and I think a lot of other people believe that too. She just had this genuine feeling to her, and that personality just fit her at the time, So anyhow, she went ahead and she continued to use that accent. And then in 2000, Yourdee, she was approached by Access Resource Service, right? This is this company called Access Resource Service, while she was in a mall in Florida, right? So I'm going to say that they're likely like a production company or a talent company or something else like that. They had been listening to her. They had heard about her through the wires and everything else like that. So she's in the mall one day in Florida, minding her own business and doing whatever she needs to do. And they said, is that, and I doubt that they called her, they could have called her Yourdee, but they may have referred to her as the lady with the Jamaican accent. Who knows what they thought, but however they referred to her, is that her? Yeah, well, let's go talk to her. So they go to talk to her, right? And they asked her, hey, so would you be interested in being on the network and talking to callers and filling them out and, just kind of giving them information? What do you think about that? And at that time, no, let me go back. They didn't ask her to be on the network. When this company approached her, what they asked her to do was she interested in promoting advertising, right? So she would be the speaker. So they would give her lines and say this stuff. They would give her a script and say, we want you to say this. And basically, she would say it as the spokeswoman. They asked her, was she interested in being a spokeswoman? And at that time, she agreed. That's what happened. Now, in the last part of the 1990s, while she was working for the Psychic Readers Network, she began using the pseudonym Cleo. So, she's already using this pretty dope accent, and then she starts using the pseudonym Cleo, right? But for whatever, I think a part of the reason why everything just like kind of took off for her is because she was very charismatic. She had this really charismatic personality that kind of sucks people in and kind of want to hear what she's talking about and kind of see where she's going with things. So I think a lot of people were interested based on that. Yeah, so she took on that persona and people just ate it up. They ate it up, you know, like the cherry on top of the cake. They ate it all up, right? Now, at that time, she appeared in a TV infomercial, which she allegedly claimed to be a shaman from Jamaica. So there was this advertising, and you know, and if I could find the clip, I will insert it. Okay, where she, you know, where she was saying, "My name is Miss Cleo, call me now." You know, that's the part that always sticks out in my head. But they're also alleging that she said she's a shaman. Now, I don't remember if she actually said that, so I will look and see if I can find a clip where she actually said she was a shaman, and she was from Jamaica. But that's what the articles are suggesting, okay? Now, the network created by Steve and Peter, they used the title, quote, Miss Cleo, and they sent unsolicited emails to some of the customers, which stated, quote, Miss Cleo has been authorized to send you a special tarot reading. It is vital that you call immediately. Now, of course, this caused a little bit of concern for the customers all around, because one, how you get my phone number? Two, what are you talking about? She's been authorized for, you know, to give me a free tarot reading, and I have to call her immediately. The biggest issue about that was the consumers they're saying that they received these emails without giving the okay to, you know, for someone to just solicit them without their permission. So these were unsolicited emails. That's equivalent to you or I at home open our emails right now, and this is an email from the president, or just anybody you can think about, any group you can think about, any social group you can think about, or even entertainment group that you did not authorize to email you. You'll be looking like, okay, so why is this party emailing me? Like, what does this mean, right? Okay, well, that's how the customers felt, and they weren't happy about that. So there was a lot of controversy began to surface at that time in callers. And then there was a lot of callers who were calling the network specifically looking for Miss Cleo. Okay, a lot because of the infomercial that she did, you know, and like I said, again, I think it was her charismatic personality that just kind of reeled people in. And they said, of course I want to read it. And if I want it to be by Miss Cleo herself, not somebody else in the building, not somebody else authorized to take the calls. I want to talk to her. That's what people were doing. But when they were calling, they were met by associates of Miss Cleo, pretty much other employees who were working the phone system as well. They were picking up and they would say, "Oh, Miss Cleo's on another call, I'll help you." And they were like, "No, I want to speak to her." And they couldn't, because obviously one person can't be in 20,000 places at one time, right? So anyhow, the customers begin getting upset, and they begin to say that it sounded like the other psychics that were on the network, that they weren't psychics at all, that they were just reading a script and trying to get people to buy into it, and just saying basically anything to try to get their information. So in addition, the owners of the network, Steve and Peter, they begin to get a whole bunch of backlash as well, because it was alleged that the calls were saying you can call and you can speak to Miss Cleo or any other light worker or psychic medium for free for the first X amount of minutes, maybe 5 minutes, in extreme cases 10 minutes. The first 5 or 10 minutes are free, right? That's a marketing tool that, you know, networks we generally use to pull people in. So anyhow, so they were when customers were calling, they were saying, you know, you're gonna have to enter your credit card information. After just like a couple of minutes, they were met with things like that. So the customers started getting really upset. They were like, wait a minute, you said that this was supposed to be free, and in fact, free does not mean enter my credit card after just a couple of minutes. So people were not here for that at all. The case kind of grew, and it became a monster of its own. Consumers start looking for help outside and start figuring what can they do. They start knocking at the door of regulatories, and guess what? Regulatory agencies are the agencies who would proceed over a company, like they would be enforcement. They would tell the company legally what they can and cannot do based on their license, credentials, etc., etc. Now, the regulatory agency that a lot of customers reached out to, in 2002, they reached out to the Federal Trade Commissioner. Okay, the Federal Trade Commissioner, they actually picked up the case. They got involved and they charged Peter and Stephen, and they tried to charge Yourdee as well with fraud and deceptive business practices, although Yourdee was never charged. Peter and Steve, they were charged, but she was never charged. Okay. Now the network, they got billed. The network, it was said that the network had billed customers an estimate of $1 billion in charges, right? So that's everybody who's calling them. These people are paying so much money hand over fist, until before you know it, the network had made $1 billion, right? Now, the case with the FTC, so the case with the FTC was settled between the FTC and the network. The case was settled. The network agreed to pay the FTC $5 million. Okay, $5 million. However, all the customers who had spent all their money to call in and felt like they were not talking to psychics, they were just talking to anybody off the street who was picking up the phone. Those customers who were saying, yeah, I want my money back, they ended up getting a settlement of $500 million to split between all the customers who have filed the multi lawsuit by way of FTC. So that was big bucks, guys. It was big bucks. It wasn't, okay, they didn't get that billion back and it wasn't going to happen. I mean, realistically, but 500 million was a darn good way to say, hey, get your business practices together, if you know what I mean. Light up the comments if you understand where I'm coming from. Now, although fans and customers and the general, now this is the irony in this though, although the fans and customers and the general public believed that it was Yourdee who was responsible for the deceptive business practices, it was later learned that she was only the spokesperson for the network, you guys. She didn't make the decisions. She didn't collect the money. I've even seen a recent documentary, which I was going to get into later, that said the total money that she even earned for that advertisement and for that infomercial was somewhere around $1,700. Now, put that in perspective to the fact that the network made $1 billion. They made $1 billion. And the most that she got out of the $1 billion for being the spokeswoman, the charismatic personality which actually pulled everybody in, she only got about $1,700. It's like, if you think about it, that's nothing. What are you going to really do with that? Now, back then, sure was more money spent better than it would today, but that was nothing. Okay, but a lot of people took it really bad, and they really put a lot of harsh comments on her that came down on her. She had to leave the public eye because things got intense. I'm sure she got a lot of threats and everything else like that, and it had to be a really terrifying time in her life. And I can only imagine she didn't think that was going to happen strictly for her being the spokeswoman of an infomercial. Strictly for her being on an infomercial, being the spokeswoman, she couldn't have imagined that all of that would come to play. Okay, now the state of Florida, they also sued Yourdee under a provision of the law that allows spokespeople to be held liable. So the state of Florida, they knew that she was only the spokesperson, that she really made no decisions, that she collected no money, none of that, but they still tried to charge her. They absolutely did. David Ehrenberg from the Florida Attorney General's office, he led the state's case against her. However, his successor later dropped the charges. The successor later said, yeah, we can do that, but she has nothing. She didn't make anything. She didn't get anything. The big guys, they already had to pay because really, they're the ones who kind of dished this whole thing out. Okay? Y'all light up the comments and let me know if you guys heard about this part. Now, there's a recent, aside of an HBO documentary that's coming out, I saw a recent interview on I think her name is Tamara Hall, She did an interview with a young lady who's doing a documentary on Yourdee. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to call her Miss Cleo, but her government name is Yourdee. So the woman did a documentary on her, and she's the one who just basically said that Yourdee was paid roughly about $1,700 for being the spokeswoman of the network, and that the cousins really, Peter and I may have just misquoted his name that quick. But the cousins, the gentleman who I told you about earlier, I probably put their name on the screens to remind you guys, they're the ones who collected all the money. So she is doing a documentary, or she has already done a documentary about her life. I don't know if the documentary that she released is the one that was released in, there was another documentary that was done in December of 2022. HBO Max released a feature documentary about Yourdee's life titled Call Me Now, Miss Cleo. So that is out in case anybody wants to check that documentary out. The documentary from the Tamron Hall show, well, I'm sorry, let me correct this. The Tamron Hall show did not release a documentary. What she did was interview the lady who actually put together the documentary for clarity, okay? The lady on her show said that later on in life, Yourdee actually identified as a proud member of the LGBTQ community, and she was accepted within that community, and she later introduced her partner. I'm sorry, I forget the woman's name at the immediate time, but she later introduced her partner as to the world, okay, and said, hey, this is my partner, and it is what it is, okay? And this was before her departure. Yourdee actually passed away. She actually did have cancer as well, and she passed away July 26 in 2016 at the age of 53. All right, guys, that is all that I have for you guys today. Did you guys know all the information that I shared today? I don't know. I don't think so. But I'll tell you what, I didn't know it before I researched it, so I thought it was worth sharing with you all. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Share, share, share because you care. Okay? And like I always say, there's always another story to be told. But for now,